Good morning, everyone, and welcome. This is Joe Scarice, co-founder and co-host of the Creative Birth Strategy podcast here on Clubhouse and live just about everywhere else, including Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Audible, uh, YouTube, Facebook. And today's discussion, we're going to be diving into ground-up construction strategies. Let's get ourselves a little set up here real quick, and we'll give us an update to the market, and we'll get started. So get that posted up. Happy to say that we're hovering around the 60th episode of our podcast. Pretty excited about that as well. It's a lot of work, but it's been a lot of fun collaborating with Mr. Yardell Perkins of Perkatech. He's been our architect to social media. Want to thank him as well. He's been nothing but a great fan of this podcast, our growth, our basically our branding of providing education to real estate professionals throughout the country and locally and regionally as well. Happy to say you're not seeing this on Clubhouse, but we got our official coffee mugs of the Creative Birth Strategy podcast, and we have our shirts. And tomorrow you'll see the backdrop put up as well for the podcast, which I'm kind of excited about. So we're kind of growing with a little marketing and exposure with that as well. And really happy to announce a couple things that we're gonna talk about real quick. One, I'd like to thank our sponsors, of course, Perkatech, Yardell Perkins. I'd like to thank Linda Pelagas with Realty 411 National Event Planning and Publication. I'd like to thank MB Capital, your unsecured business line of credit program that provides unsecured business lines for real estate professionals. And then Lendmark Capital, which I am a senior loan analyst where I'm providing asset-based lending nationwide in the DSCR space, 1 through 4, 5 through 20, fixed to rent, fixed to flip, new construction, mixed use. We'll look at blanket loan scenarios. We provide advisory and strategy for real estate professionals as they grow out their business. So some interesting, great news, what's coming up. We got some great events coming up. We had a happy hour end of the summer event at our offices. Yardell and myself are putting it on. We already have over 60 registered people coming to the event. It's a Thursday night, August 29th. If you are in the Philadelphia market, it's a Thursday night. You can stay over and head out on Friday or stay for the weekend for Philadelphia. It's at 17th and Snyder at our offices at Newbold Exchange. I'm very excited about it. I'm thinking we're going to have a little over 100 people. Then we're having September 6th, a wellness real estate networking event, a first Friday in Old City at my wife's offices at the Philadelphia School of Massage and Bodywork. We're going to have chair massage. We're going to have wellness. We're going to have real estate. We're going to be discussing, just a nice casual Friday night in Old City on a first Friday, which I'm really cool about. Then this leads into something that I used to run a lot of events personally, hundreds of events a year, rehab caravan tours, name it, I did it for other organizations. And, being post-stroke, I kind of made some decisions, kind of go a different direction. And I just decided to not run as many anymore. So kind of I allowed others to kind of run their events and I would sponsor them. So I decided to bring back a more of a mastermind structure. It's going to be every second Monday of the month at our offices at Newbold Exchange, 6:30 to 8:30. It will be done on Zoom. I'm not really sure how I'm going to be able to do it on Clubhouse, but I definitely am going to do live and Zoom for people to listen in live with us while we're there. It'll be hot seat oriented. Everybody will be involved in the room. It'll be pretty cool. So excited about that. And that starts in September. And it's going to be set up almost like the podcast here. So pretty cool stuff. So we got a lot of things coming up. Also, I'll be at the STR Conference Center next Saturday in the Poconos. I'm one of the presenters and discussing lending in the STR space. I'll be there at Kalahari for Friday, Saturday into Sunday. So we won't have a Saturday, but we'll definitely have a Sunday podcast, kind of recap the STR conference as well and touch on a subject of education. as usual. And then we're going to be at the Maryland Association of Realtor Expo, then the Delaware Association of Realtor Expo, New York City Real Estate Investor Expo. We're going to be at NAR, National Association of Realtors. We're going to be also at the Ohio OREA in Cincinnati, Ohio, and then we're going to finish it up with Triple Play, which is in Atlantic City. A lot of people were asking me, why am I focusing heavy on the real estate agent space? It ties into a lot of the articles I'm seeing and a lot of the information. Realtors are going to be going into desperation mode. They're either going to go big and dive into the investor space, or they might have to find another industry to identify a profession in. I think home buying sentiment is still at an all-time low. Inflation's not going away, whether the media is astroturfing, thinking the world is so much better now. It's not. Inflation is still very present. Its cost is still up. So what? It went down a tick of a small percentage point. We're still not in a good financial strength, and that scares the home buyer, but it strengthens the investor. The investor gets very strong in this market, and it ties into a couple articles that we're going to discuss real quick before we dive into ground up construction. So one article that really caught my eye, and I'll be posting it today, there's a report: investor home purchases are surging. No kidding, guys. Asset-based lending is taking over the entire investor industry. It's rising 5 to 10% a year. Okay. During COVID pandemic, when purchases were more than doubled, it's even doubling again. It's doubling down again. And real estate investors are re-entering the market to capitalize on strong rental demand. Okay, high home prices and mortgage rates have pushed home ownership out of reach for Americans, fueling demand for renters. Investors who often pay in cash are well positioned to benefit from this trend. Rental demand is strong, but rent growth is sluggish. So it's kind of a mixed blend, but the investors are not playing around. And I derive that with asset-based lending. Another great article I saw: mortgage delinquencies tick up in Q2. Keep an eye out for some mortgage delinquencies and foreclosures. They're starting to kind of get to the market. And then, very interesting, where are the U.S. counties boasting the highest foreclosure activity? Interesting. I'll give you the top 10 real quick, which a couple more surprises. Some of them are not. Number 1 is Bibb County, Georgia. Number 2 is Utah County, Utah. Number 3 is Charles County, Maryland. Number 4, Sussex County, New Jersey. Number 5, Lake County, Indiana. Number 6, Warren County, New Jersey. Number 7, Ascension County, Louisiana. Number 8, Richland County, South Carolina. Number 9, Osceola County, Florida. And number 10, Delaware County, Pennsylvania. Very interesting top counties for foreclosures. Some of them I'm very familiar with, some of them are not, but interesting to say it's creeping up. Some top states: New York, California, Illinois, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. So let's dive into our subject. Well, first, real quick, rates leveled off for the conventional side at around 6.56, came down a little bit, but they've been hovering around with inflationary numbers. Job reports have been weak. CPI came in just about okay. So that a lot of those impacts are keeping that rate around that 6.5 to 7% range. A lot of people are thinking, hey, rates are going to come down after Labor Day. The Fed's going to lower the rate. That's great, but that doesn't always mean the Treasury note is always going to fall in line with the Fed dropping the rate. Remember, in the investment space, we follow a 5-year Treasury note. We don't follow the Fed notifications. So our rates actually dropped this past week because of the Treasury, the 5-year Treasury. So my base rate now starts at 6.5%. So we're dead even with conventional financing. There's no difference in getting a property through a bank or a non-bank and using a business loan for the LLC to buy a property, an investment property. The 10-year Treasury is usually how the rate reflects for primary residences and secondary homes. So it'll be interesting to see, even with the Fed chopping down the rate maybe a quarter point, how will that impact, the big picture of things when it comes to acquisition and sentiment on buying homes right now. So very interesting articles to start off with. to get good things going with information this morning. So this week as well, very busy. A lot of people are buying portfolios right now, a lot of DSCR loans, a lot of discussions in refinancing, restructuring, to buy, taking money from one property to another. I've had multiple discussions with clients, literally trying to figure out how to grow their portfolio and take advantage of the changing in the rate and the opportunities that are starting to present themselves. I'm seeing some more rehabs coming to the front line, lighter in rehab, meaning they're not as heavy based on the purchase price, but I'm starting to see a few coming off the sidelines. I'm starting to see some of the urban cities pick up a little again. I've seen a couple $1 million worth of loans in some of the smaller cities outside of New York, and the numbers are looking strong. The Jersey City market is probably one of the fastest growing cities in the country. I'm starting to see a lot more redevelopment there. A lot of additions to the current square footage as well. So very interesting to see there. But overall, this past week, I've been seeing a lot more strategy discussions with clients and how to grow and expand and liquidate, get some money going. And they're concerned about appraisals and what the end result's going to look like. Very interesting. Really more in-depth discussions again this week with my client base and client inquiry. So let's quickly go into ground up construction strategies. And obviously, if anybody has any questions, they could raise their hand or put in the chat, or we'll get to our moderators, of course. Ground up construction refers to building a structure from scratch, starting with a piece of undeveloped land. This process involves several strategic steps to ensure the project is completed successfully. Site selection and acquisition, very important. You got to do your market research and conduct thorough market research to identify areas with high demand and growth potential. Consider factors like job growth, population trends, and proximity to amenities. Number two is set zoning and regulations. You need to understand and ensure the land is zoned for the intended use. Understanding local building codes, regulations, and environmental considerations. And then obviously, do your due diligence, performing environmental assessments, soil tests, and title searches to avoid legal and structural issue laters. I am seeing a lot more people brokering land and working land deals. It's a very different type of market, but I think the end result is obviously development. So then there's number two, financing and budgeting. You need to understand and secure financing, obtaining construction loans, and consider working with investors or partners, ensuring you have enough sufficient capital for unexpected costs. Detailed budgeting, creating a detailed budget covering land acquisition, permits, construction contingency, and soft costs like design and legal fees. And then cost management, implementing strict cost controls and regularly review financial progress to stay within budget. Number three, design and planning, architectural designs, working with architects and designers to create a functional, pleasing design that meets the market demand. Sustainable design, consider incorporating energy efficient, sustainable building practices to reduce long-term operating costs and appeal to buyers or tenants. Permitting and approvals, obtaining all necessary building permits and approvals from local authorities. Number four, construction management, general contractor selection, hiring a reputable contractor and experience in similar projects. We did a couple new constructions. Some of them went very well. I'm going to stop there for a second because we hired one general contractor. I wouldn't hire him to bake a cookie. He was so bad. Lawsuits later, we're still trying to sift out the mess of a very bad GC. Okay? And if anybody would ever want to know his name and the company name, no problem. You could always inquire. I will not put it on video, but terrible general contractor. And anybody around him is terrible. Project scheduling and quality control. A robust quality control process to ensure all work meets the required standards. Regular inspections and site visits are essential. There's risk management, there's marketing and sales strategy, there's post-construction activities like final inspections, handover process, post-occupancy evaluation. Then there's the sustainability and long-term maintenance of a new construction. Okay, a lot of these strategies can navigate complexities of ground construction and maximize the potential for a successful project. There's a lot of money out there for new construction, but, big but, but they want to know that you can get completed with the project. They want to see some form of experience. They want to see, do you own the land already? And because it's not always, because if you're buying the land in the construction loan, the risk is you get held up on permits and zoning. More lenders like myself feel much more comfortable knowing that you have the permits, you paid for the third party work, architectural designs, zoning permits, and all you need from me is a reimbursement of what you have into the property to a certain loan to cost. And then obviously the construction money to get the construction project started. So, in a big picture of things from a financing perspective, if you bought the land for 100 grand, I'm just using it as a number, and you spend $25,000 in third party, I look at it this way. And then the construction cost is $250. I want to keep numbers really easy. I'm going to take 125,000, multiply that by no more than 75%, and I'm going to reimburse 93,750 back to you, potentially up to, okay, on what you have into the deal. Okay. I'm then going to go 250 on the construction loan. I'm going to do 90%, and I'm at 225. Between the new construction costs, the money I reimburse, I'm going to give you close to 100% vertical. I'm also going to escrow 12 months of interest payments because you don't want to go into mortgage shock the day you close. And this is all based on the after repair value, subject to, and you can almost nearly get 100% financing if you control the land, buy the land, and then obviously uh, you have all the third party work done. There could be a reimbursement plan where you can actually get 100% vertical construction if all the numbers match up. Justin, good morning and welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts for our discussion this morning. Ground up construction strategies, and I know you're going to have a little thoughts to the Louisiana County of foreclosures.
Oh yeah, yeah. Good morning, Joe. I was sitting in the message, but I heard it, and I kind of think something. And when you mentioned ascension on the top 10, that really surprised me. Right? Ascension area that's, I believe, I personally, it's a little overpriced, but it's overpriced because of the band, right? Their intention with driving people to ascension and uh, stuff like that is to kind of get people away from the trouble city, the stuff that's going on in the city, right? But that was one of the main parishes, neighboring East Baton Rouge parish, that was the big push, I guess, when everybody was kind of getting out of the city, right? Uh, but it maintains, it's fueled. Ascension is really fueled by our plants, right? So you have high paid plant workers, a lot of them. You have several trailer parks in Ascension, and you have about twice as many, or three times the neighboring parish going in the other direction, going in the opposite, not the opposite direction, but going, I would say, north of Ascension. Okay, so you have East Baton Rouge Parish. If you're looking at it, just so you got to have an image, and then look to your right, or you have Livingston, and south of that you have Ascension. So basically, I find it interesting because I believe, now I'm gonna just share a little bit about my market. It's maybe different than the other markets, but down here there was a big, I guess, push for new homes. So much so to the point they had to stop builders. They had to put some kind of moratorium on there and stop builders from building for over a year, because what was happening is similar in Houston, similar in a lot of places that were built on swamps, right? So uh, once you build all the way around in such a large area, geographically created a pool. So flooding became a very big issue in Ascension. Places that didn't flood in 20 years were flooding because all of these new homes and new construction was popping up. This goes back to the statistic, right? So but there was a lot of money being put out there during 2020, 2021, and so on and so forth. Also, the interest rates were low. And in these neighborhoods were filling up rather quickly. But I also believe, like I said in the beginning when I started talking, there are only a few things that fuel the economy in ascension. So you have to come back and forth to the city, or you have to be working in a plant somewhere that can continue to give you that amount of income that you're used to and that sustainable living. Um, and so I personally, I know I probably confuse some people, but personally, I see a lot of variables that could have caused the foreclosure rate in Ascension in comparison to another city that's a large city, like let's say Denver, right? What drives their economy is something different. However, their high foreclosure rate is due to the fact that they may have been overpriced. It may not be due to the fact that consumers didn't really analyze what they had. And I really think down here we were just going for the best option. But where the money was being invested, a lot of companies shifted down that way towards airline highway. And so, I know I rambled a lot, but I just want to give a good picture and maybe point out a difference as to why these rates might be the way they are. It surprised me when we were on the list, but at the same time, it did not surprise me understanding how some of these places get back into foreclosure. And so, Joe, if you got any questions or anything like that, man, I'd be happy to answer. I wanted to throw something in there on new construction too.
Mm-hmm. Go right ahead. Go right ahead, Justin, on new construction.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, so my thoughts on new construction and where we are in the economy. I personally believe in new construction really strongly. I believe in it as an investment from an investment angle. I believe that if you have a new construction product, whether it's multifamily, um, you're looking at the best long-term and term investment, short-term. Most times, if I'm raising capital and I'm building, and let's just say I'm building something by small, right? Let's say I'm building 12 units. Um, if I'm building 12 units, then let's look at everything. Everything's new: the plumbing, electrical, the walls, the structure, right? The foundation. These things, the earth we sit on, it shifts. It will move, right? The weather is going to continue to weatherize whatever material your property is made of. So from that standpoint, when I get financing on a commercial property 5 to 10 years, right? I'm doing my turnovers every 5 to 10 years. Each buyer is. I want to have that property in the best position when it's time for me to trade it as it can be. When I buy a property that's 56 years old, I do renovations to it. I'm doing as much as I can, but if I do not rebuild that building, then from some angle, deal with the weatherized materials, right? I'm going to have to deal with the deteriorating structure in some form of fashion. Those things can be costly not only to maintain, but they can be costly on your back end when it's time to sell to your next end buyer. Because and that is absolutely positive. Let me tell you, I'm going to negotiate you down based on those things and based on their potential. And I want to say that the same thing I believe applies with homes because remember, we're not doing 5 turns on these, we're doing 30 years. So just think about the life of that. Look at the lifespan, look at what has happened to this property in the past 30 years. And do believe, feel comfortable paying that for 30 years from now, if that's where you're at in 30 years, right? If you haven't stopped it before. Just a lot to think about. I love new construction. Can say more about it, but I'll let it breathe a little bit because I've had been on with it this morning. But thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Justin. So, what does a lender look for a new construction project? Right? Like, what are the questions? What are the answers? All right. Let's talk about that because I think a lot of people think they know, they kind of know, but they don't know. Experience description. In the last 4 years, there are 6 questions, and there's very specific answers. This is not a a Congress interrogation or Senate interrogation where you avoid giving the answer. Okay. Here, you're going to give me a very specific number when I ask you a very specific question. Fair to say. First question. In the past 4 years, property rehab completed and sold, meaning how many flips have you completed? Not thought about, walked by, how many you have personally have ownership in and completed. Number two, property rehab completed and retained as a rental. That means BRR. It's a number. It could be 0, it could be 10. Next question. Property acquired as a rental in the last 4 years. It's a specific number. The next question, ground up construction and sold, meaning you flipped new construction. Number 5, ground up construction and retained as a rental, meaning for BRR. And number 6, property rehab completed and sold as GC for third-party investor. Now, knowing the last 3 questions, who could potentially be a good partner in your initial start of new construction to get better leverage, to get better pricing, and more lending options? A GC, somebody that's qualified under those last 3. But it doesn't disqualify you if you already own the land and you already paid for the third-party work and you're just looking for the new construction. You have everything all laid out with the GC quote, etc. So don't think it doesn't allow you to get general construction options. It just makes it a little more where we're not going to give most lenders are not going to give you the purchase money on a piece of land if you've never done it before. They're going to want to know that you own the land already. You already got the third-party work. You got the general construction scope of work. You have the architectural designs. You have the permits. You have the zoning. The pegs are in the ground. And the minute I draw you a loan and the first draw, you're putting a backhoe into the land. That's what a lender feels more comfortable with if you're newer to new construction, but you have heavy experience in rehabbing, flipping, burring, things of that nature. And some benefits of ground up projects. Customization. Ground up construction allows you to complete customization according to specific needs and preferences with the developer. Optimize efficiency. With ground up construction, developers have the opportunity to incorporate the late construction technologies and sustainable practices. Greater control. Creating a structure from scratch provides greater control over every aspect of the project. Budgeting, scheduling, quality control. Long-term value. A newly constructed building typically requires less maintenance and repairs compared to older structures, leading to reduced ongoing expenses and potentially higher property values over time. Compliance with building permits. Building from scratch allows for full compliance with current building codes and regulations, ensuring that the structure meets safety standards and legal requirements. Enhanced sustainability. A ground-up development provides an opportunity to implement sustainable building practices from the outset, such as energy-efficient design, renewable energy systems, and water-saving features. Brand and image and identity. For businesses, ground-up construction offers the chance to create a custom-built facility that reflects their brand and image and identity. Now, let's talk about some mistakes to avoid on ground-up construction projects. Choosing the wrong location. You can't jam a square peg in a round hole. Okay? Number 2, overlooking administrative steps. Certain localities impose stringent building codes and zoning mandates that dictate the type of buildings can be constructed in that certain area. Inaccurately estimating expenses. The harsh reality of construction industry is that almost no project goes exactly according to plan. One of the most common mistakes investors make is failing to build in a contingency budget to take care of any problems that may pop up over the course of the project. Setting unrealistic timelines. Investors need to have a solid grasp on all phases of the construction process and time allotted to each. Not maintaining open lines of communication. All stakeholders involved in the ground-up construction process need to be on the same page during all stages of the build in order to avoid potentially costly miscommunications. So again, these are things that you need to take steps in. No different than the rehab side, flipping side of things as well. Melissa, good morning and welcome. Thank you for your patience. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to ground-up construction strategies.
Hey, good morning, Clubhouse. Good morning, Joseph and Justin. Thank you for having me up today. I'm Melissa King, owner-operator at One Last Eye LLC Virtual Assistant Services. I work remotely out of my home here in West Michigan. I offer realty, bookkeeping, and office management services to small businesses and entrepreneurs, specifically in the realty, real estate investment area. I'm also a state of Michigan licensed referral agent and notary. That's how I make my money. I have actually been listening to Joseph's podcast for I think a year and a half, and I'm still learning. I'm one of those turtles. I did actually want to mention I've been monitoring West Michigan legal news. You can get it online, but I'm one of those old school people. I do like to scan the little newspaper that I get in the mail. So I find those extremely interesting. And for the last year, foreclosures here in Michigan, is particularly Muskegon County, a lot of interesting things I've read. I mean, I've seen foreclosures on homes from above 500,000, Joseph, which I was like, what? These are single family homes that I'm looking at, down to one I tried to get, but my process was not good. I was called out by an attorney on it. So I was like, I need to learn more before I start doing this. That one was only 13,000. And my husband and I actually went by that. It was in probate. So in my due diligence, I found out a lot of information, but I was stopped by the attorney because he didn't take my offer, and that's fine. I just have to learn more. I want to mention something I just found this week, because you brought up demographics. That is important for everybody to definitely do your due diligence in the areas that you want to. I found something for free that you might want to try. It's called unitedstateszipcodes.org. You put in a zip code, and I could not believe the demographic and marketing and information I got. I mean, right away, I did 3 of the area that I'm looking at. So that information, I just did due diligence in like 15 minutes. Let me say that again, unitedstateszipcodes.org. I was really geeked about that one. I wanted to share that today. I appreciate everybody's information. And it looks like I either need to start meeting with more GCs in the county I want to work with, or get that GC quote. I'm looking at some land around there. I like the idea of raising or scraping the building, doing the footprint, and building new construction. The more I drive around in this area, Joseph, the buildings are just dilapidated. You don't want to put money into an old car that you can't even get parts for anymore, right? So I do it with a home. If it's better in the long run for you to raise the building, use the footprint, I'm looking at that. I think that's still a great idea. That's what I wanted to add this morning. Thanks, Joseph.
Thank you for coming in, Melissa. You've been very dedicated with our podcast for the last several years. This podcast has shape shifted on Clubhouse over the last several years. People have come, people have gone. But the consistent theme here is we're here to provide education. We're here to kind of get it out there and and air the laundry of different slices of the pie when it comes to real estate. And understanding ground construction process, having that knowledge is essential to have a substantial, to that type of construction, from the beginning. You need to understand the building process before deciding which road to take. This is there's a pre-development phase consisting of selecting the site, acquiring the land, and doing environmental assessments and getting the required permits and building plans, and knowing if you can build there. Some areas just will not allow something. Then there's the development phase. It includes all the work necessary before beginning the construction, including surveying, land grading, and excavation, as well as installing various site utilities. Then there's the construction phase, erecting of the building, which is guided by the approved construction drawings, and then the closeout phase, includes going through a range of final municipality formalities, including obtaining a certificate of occupancy. Having that experienced general construction background with a contractor or yourself with a team with a project management group is very important. And I cannot emphasize that enough. Nobody wants to see a failed project, especially the lender. They want to make sure they get their money back and then you get a completed project and move on to the next. Mr. Kazi, good morning. Welcome. I saw that you're from the Jersey City market. I'm very familiar with that area. A lot of development going on, a lot of redevelopment going on, a lot of build outs. Please introduce yourself and brief overview who you are, what you do, and our thoughts to ground up construction strategies.
My man Joseph, what's going on, buddy? Glad to see you still holding these educational rooms, man.
Every Saturday and Sunday.
For a while, so I'm glad to see you had these still going. And I'm sorry to go to Jersey City, so I'm actually based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, but I'm in Jersey City, a lot of just New Jersey area, general. But yeah, I'm KZ. We're based out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Affordable housing developer, new construction, adaptive reuses. We go through the long-term housing tax credits, workforce housing tax credits, housing trust funds, home funds, other type of little government mechanisms that's used to build, affordable housing. I think I said historical tax credits as well, new market tax credits. But no, I think this is a great topic, Joseph, this ground up construction strategies. I don't know if you have a question or not for me, or just
Yeah. Well, you're in two very interesting markets. One, I love Milwaukee and I like the Wisconsin market because everybody's getting the hell out of Chicagoland. And because they're scared for their life. So Wisconsin migration numbers are extremely strong. I've been to Milwaukee a couple times. I actually, it's kind of funny. People are like, oh, there's some really bad areas in Milwaukee. I went to the bad areas that they parenthesize. And let me tell you something, they don't know what a bad area is because I went to Rutgers, Newark. I lived in Jersey City. I lived in Elizabeth. Believe me, not saying I could walk down there in boxer shorts and a butter knife, but not that intimidating. So I found Milwaukee really nice. I found Madison really. I love Madison, Wisconsin.
yes.
I like Sheboygan. I like Appleton, Eau Claire. What am I missing up there? And with new construction, it's timing because things get real cold real quick. So like, what is that window there? What does that look like? And the development up there, is that going to be all affordable housing, or is it going to be some B neighborhood stuff, or is it going to be a blend of the two? What are you foreseeing in the Wisconsin market? Then we'll jump to Jersey City. Okay.
No, yes. Thanks, Joe, and I'm glad you was able to tour through Wisconsin, and you're rocking Madison, especially one of the fastest growing rental cities as well. But yeah, so you're right about that, Joe. In the wintertime, you're definitely going to see an escalation in your price. Usually cost anywhere from be 300,000 to 500,000. So basically, additional costs through the winter. That's the temporary heating. Just other cost rates, related to, doing construction in the winter time. So, we definitely try to, beat that schedule, or at least, start construction way before then. So at least we have an enclosure by winter. You always can't, beat that timing. But, lately, these last couple of years, our winters haven't been too bad. But regardless of what's happening in the winter, people are doing some all type of projects, whether they rehabbing homes to have them ready for the spring market. There can be market rate going on, affordable housing going on, right? Even office projects or other infrastructure projects, going on. It's going to come maybe with a little, more pricing or a little more cost, I should say, during our winter months, right? It's called December through March. It's typically like in Wisconsin when, we have these, winter storms or just cold, very cold, winters. But I don't know, Joe, one thing I want to, bring up, about this ground up construction. Our main thing is ground up construction, right? Anywhere from 50 to 300 units. And one thing that I do that I feel like this was lost in the construction industry, and Joe, I know for a fact you remember this as a lender. Remember, like back in the day, construction used to always be design, bid, then build, right? Then we went to the design build method, which I think creates a lot of change orders. I'm not a fan of design build because it removes the electrician, the plumbers, your mechanicals, your MEPs, and your framers from the conversation, how this building is being designed, and then you run into a lot of change orders during construction. Something I think that's not utilized as much, which we do on our project, is the IPD method, the integrated project delivery method. And as we're designing the building or beginning the concept to discuss the concept, I like to have my MEPs, my civil. They're always going to be the virtual civil engineers, but my civil, my structural, my architect, my MEPs, and my framers. The landscape architect, of course, all in the beginning of the conversation and helping to design, this building. And you have your MEPs, in the beginning of a project like that, of course, it's going to cost a little bit more money versus, design and build, so they do ad flips in the field. So when we start doing that IPD method, we start to see a reduction in change orders.
Yeah.
You're always going to have change orders. So, in construction, that's just the goal is how can I reduce my change orders? But I think, in the new ground up construction, going that IPD method is very important. And then that way, we can let our lenders know, our equity players know that, we spent a lot of time, up front. I believe in that thing. You have to slow down to go fast. And design build method, in my opinion, is the fast track method. Again, and it leaves a lot of change orders to happen during construction. So, as we approach our jobs, let our lenders know, our equity know, hey, this is our process. This is how we went about our construction process or design, just to kind of ensure that we're trying to catch as much of stuff as possible, during the design stage versus in the construction stage where it's going to cost you. And also, I think you were doing like a ground up project for the first time. Just like I had to do actually the first 2 times. You have to team up with another larger, developer or a contractor that might do his own, buildings as well. So definitely on the team up. I think it's smart to team up your first time, first couple times, especially with a seasoned, investor or a developer, just to start to build that reputation with the lender that, you can do this on your own and stuff like that. So I think this is one big thing is just make sure, you find a partner. I don't care if you're in a single family, a duplex, whatever. I think it's important just to find somebody who's already done it before and have them assist you or act as an owner's or team up with you to, get this first project completed.
So, Kazi, I want to point out a couple things that I really agree with you. My most successful development, ground up construction that I did personally was when I worked in tandem with the architect, and the architect was also the GC. I had less work order changes, not a lot of things were going wrong, permit processes aligned. The one bad new construction that we were involved with was the new construction one that we did not do that, and it was problematic. A lot of work order changes, a lot of miscommunication between the architect and the GC. I mean, I have to admit it was a really bad project, and it dragged out for years. We actually had a lawsuit and everything with it. It just got finalized even about a year ago. One of our business partners even passed away in the duration of this whole process. It was terrible. So I agree with you that you need to align the architectural and the GC parallel, because you're going to run into those type of problems. I want to come back to you though on the Jersey City thing real quick. Are you involved with build out, or are you more involved with ground up construction? Because Jersey City is kind of getting saturated. What's your involvement in Jersey City? Since I know that market extremely well, I used to live there actually.
That's pretty exciting, Joe. So we just started coming out to New Jersey back in last September. I just fell in love with Jersey City. But right now, majority of our opportunities that we have is in the Montclair area and also the Providence area. We're partnering with faith-based, organizations to develop their, land into affordable housing. So I've had opportunity to like really kind of get into Jersey City other than just hanging out. And that's usually why I, stay at a hotel when I come, to Jersey. But man, I love Jersey for sure. So, Joe, what is your thoughts about Jersey City? Because I see some few trains out here.
I know. There's at least 6 of them.
About Jersey City.
I think Jersey City is a very unique market. It's got a lot of old historical buildings to it. And I think you're going to see a combination of build out and new construction and new development in Jersey City for at least the next 10 years. Our former governor, I know, is running for mayor, or I don't know if he won the election. Jim Greavy. Uh, it's a very gritty city. It's obviously evolved over. I mean, they're getting rid of a lot of the bad element, especially where I used to live near the Communipol area. That was a very tough area, but it's cleaned up quite a bit. I mean, they have their city problems like anybody else, and geopolitical issues as well. But I think between the universities that are there presently and I would just basically the scare of coming out of New York City to live in Jersey City, where there's less issues with illegal immigration. Not, I mean, it's still present, but not as bad as New York City, I think, and crime. I think a lot of people are finding it more comfortable for them to sit in the Jersey City Heights area, downtown Jersey City area, and then there's areas around there that are doing very well. Bergen County as well is one of the fastest growing counties in the country as well. But I'm starting to see a lot of that money um, moving into the southern Jersey corridor, more Atlantic County, um, Gloucester, Cumberland, and Salem because of the housing affordability for low income housing. Low income housing is going to have a massive problem because it's becoming mandatory in a lot of the cities within and the townships within New Jersey, and the affordability doesn't make sense because the cost to build it costs the same to build a Class A or B unit as if you're building a Class C unit. So there's no difference in the costs unless there's federal monetization of tax credits to alleviate the debt stack. And that's a higher, complicated discussion to have. I'm trying to keep this real basic on the ground up construction, but it all depends on what the Fed and the state are giving back to the developers to make sense of allowing the cost to be able to be renting those units out for affordable housing. So that's the problem you're going to have because the build out costs the same. So if it's going to cost you, I don't know, I'm just using a number, 200 a square, 250 a square, there's no difference if somebody rents a housing, low income housing or a Class A rental. The cost to build is the same. So where am I going to lean my renters toward? I'm going to lean them more toward the Class A renter because I want to maximize my cash flow. So,
You're Joe about the cost. We're over the projects in my clearing in Providence. We're getting about $225 a square foot.
well, I'm just using a number. Yeah, I'm just using a number. Montclair is another market that's obviously changed because if anybody knows Montclair, New Jersey, there definitely was an outsider's mentality. If you remember the movie, one side of the tracks to the other, the wealth was on one side, the poor was on the other. Now the developers went onto the poor side and now have enhanced the values to the poor side to the near equivalence of the wealthy side. So there's no bad spot yet, and the saturation numbers are pretty high in redeveloping, and there's really not any room to do low income housing in a Montclair or a New Providence. New Providence always has been a higher end market. There's a lot of land out that way, but again, it's higher price ticketed. You're out near the Trump Country Club in Bedminster. I mean, like you're talking real big money. So the cost of building in a piece of land out there and then justifying low income housing is going to be a tough swallow for some of these municipalities based on taxes that they're going to collect from the Class A developments. So let's go to another rose amongst the thorns real quick here. We got Amy. Good morning. Thank you for coming back in the room. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to the discussion, ground up construction strategies.
Hey, Joe. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I had to pop out. I'm back. It's soccer season, so my kid's about to play a game here in a minute, so I'll be here for a little bit. But ground up construction is a real. I mean, I was a developer, and a general contractor for a good part of my career. So this is right in my wheelhouse. I'm not sure what has been said for me getting in the room, so hopefully I can add some value here. I would say on any sort of ground up construction, the best, and this would harken back to Joe, but you really need to understand it's not just your construction loan. I have you have to, there might be several rounds of financing. There might be how you do your whole capital stack for the project. You might include things like TIF, and which is tax incremental financing, which might help get you some of that stuff done. And there's lots of ways to do the financing in order to get your project done. But you really, especially if it's your first couple of times, because every project is different, you got to lean on your lender, have them a part of a conversation early, because you're going to get over your skis and you're going to run out of money. And when you're calling them when you're running out of money, it's too late. You're going to slow down your damn job, and you can't do that. So you have to be constantly talking with them and understanding. The one key thing is every lender's different. Understand your draw schedule. Understand what it's going to take to get your draw payment, because that is just huge and will kill your job if you can't manage that correctly. So it's all about the money and managing the money, not just managing the project. So that'd be my half a nickel.
There you go, that half a nickel. I mean,
There it is.
the current attitudes of the builders, Amy and Kazi, this, the psychology and emotions of a home builder is equal. Like there's a crucial, the financial news and housing metrics right now is I'm building these houses and I can't sell them. I'm going to have to rent them. And all these hedge funds are coming and say, hey, I'll buy all these. So what's the contractor going to do over time? I mean, their mindset has to shift a little bit because they can't expect to build to sell anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that?
No, it's very true. Nothing pencils right now. Luxury pencils. Affordable doesn't even really pencil right now because it's just becoming too burdensome. A lot of the regulation on the portable side is just wacky, and it's kind of fluctuating. So to get understanding the tax credits, there's not a lot of people buying those now, and so you got to understand the game. And so it's definitely an interesting time. And what you'll see is that it's just nobody's doing anything. So but it's a really cool time if you can finagle a deal where you can find something that you can build. There are a ton of contractors out there doing nothing, right? I mean, they're bored and looking for work and hungry. And so if you can figure out, if you have an owner that has land, you don't have to buy the land, and you can work on a deal where it makes sense. And especially on the housing side, where the municipality wants you to come in, they'll be very, very thankful to you that you worked out a deal where you could take the land and turn it into housing. They'll throw money at you because they need it, right? So you got to be real creative at the moment, for sure.
And just to add to that, it's interesting to your point, like, prior to the pandemic and today, these buildings are costing, 4 or 5 million, more. Maybe you can get it, a little down, but they are costing, let's call it 40% more, to build these, projects. And to your point, and just earlier what you mentioned, it's been, I think, a lot of strain on federal government and local government to come out with either local mechanisms or, whatever is happening at the federal level to come out with, additional, funding mechanisms to help bridge a lot of these gaps. And you're right, these deals are a little bit tougher, to do. Because again, it costs us more, but they had the same amount of money going around in like these cities. That's why New Jersey, I thought it was pretty interesting. They created a program called Aspire. It's a local mechanism, and it's about a $10 billion fund, like literally $10 billion. And they're using this for affordable housing. And it is some other, some workforce housing. There's some other stuff you can utilize them for, as long as there's some housing involved. But a lot of states are looking how do we create our own local mechanisms. Like a lot of states now are starting to create their own tax credit, state tax credit. Like a lot of states have that already, but a lot of states didn't have their own state tax credit to try to layer on top of the 4%. Credit in order to help kind of bridge some of these, gaps. But it's going to be interesting over the next, couple of years, especially with this next administration, whoever comes in, to see, what they do to kind of, help try to mitigate, some of these, these constraints we have out here around, just creating housing.
Thank you, Kazi. Gilbert, good morning and welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and brief thought to ground up construction strategies.
Hey, good morning, Joseph, Justin, Melissa, Amy, KZ. What's up? Gilbert Oparanco. I'm the managing director of a company in Houston called Grace Building Company. And what we do is we focus on the 4-door and under space. So fourplexes, duplexes, triplexes, ADUs.
Yep.
That's kind of our space. That's where we kind of roll back to. And this is a great conversation about ground up construction strategies. I've heard a ton of good points that a lot of you have made. I think in the grand scheme of things, something that's very important, and some of you touched on this, is like when you're first getting into new development, likely it's going to be, if you're doing 5+ deals right out of the gate, you're probably an LP or an investor in someone's deal. But if you're doing your own, it's likely going to be a fourplex and under, and you're always going to roll back to appraisal methodology and comp sales, right? So you have to be careful on where you decide to build, and you got to be very conservative because, you have to go back and underwrite to what the rents are in the market. Amy brought up an interesting point. So everyone thinks, right, I'm going to build something and I'm going to sell it for a bunch of money. But obviously, the lending environment has changed dramatically. But since we started in 2016, one of the reasons why I focus on 4-door and under is just because by nature, it automatically gives me multiple exit strategies. I don't have to sell a duplex when I get done. I can lease it at market rates, at workforce rates, or even in the earlier days, you could put Section 8 tenants in them, right, when build costs and interest rates weren't as high. But, you want to always have multiple exit strategies. And something else I caution everybody on, COVID created a lot of heroes because there was a lot of capital going around. But since then, you'll notice that some builders, general contractors, developers, their business has probably slowed, or you've kind of seen them disappear. And just to add some more commentary, we build for out-of-state investors, local investors. We do build to rent for ourselves as well. But some of the things you want to be careful of, like when you're getting these loans, whether they're non-QM money or conventional money, something common that I've seen over the last 8 years is that, especially with people that are new to it, just misappropriation of construction money, right? That happens a lot. No lie, I've had cases where people get construction funds and they go get a body makeover. I've had cases where people get construction funds and they, take some vacation and spend 30, 40 grand in 2 weeks. And then, they're coming up short on their projects. So, my commentary would be, for everyone listening, is just remember that your construction funding is for the project. It goes all the way back to the project. Something else I'd add, obviously, you've heard already to hire an experienced GC. I totally agree with that. So in your contract and you're negotiating with these GCs, be sure that you basically advise them to be very explicit in the agreement on what is included in your price and your cost to build and what is excluded, right? What they'll be accountable for. That way, it'll just help you underwrite a lot more closer and tighter to numbers. And I'd even take it a step further. One of the things we do, especially if we're doing a 4-door or smaller build, we give ourselves a timeline, right, to complete your project. It's typically 6 months. And to be honest with you, I want to be out of there before 6 months, because the longer a construction project drags, the riskier it gets and the more things that can happen. But I just wanted to contribute those thoughts, Joseph. Yeah. Thank you for allowing the platform.
Oh yeah, no, you touched on some great points, and I want to add a couple things to what you said. I think the 1 through 4 space, Gilbert, is going to stay very strong in the new construction. There's billions of dollars being allocated in that new construction space. I see a problem in the multifamily space. So staying away from that 5+ unit development, I think is smart as a developer and general contractor, because you can get bogged down in a lot of things that you don't see coming, especially if there's a mixed use piece to it. If there's commercial space or office retail to the residential, it's definitely a different animal. I think right now that 1 through 4, especially the 2 through 4 space, there's so much money being allocated by certain hedge funds out there to be distributed for new construction. The problem you have is the experience level that they're looking for to justify disbursement of that money is kind of a conflict. So teaming up with a good GC that has been vetted to partner in some format as the investor might be the better play in growth, but you got to be aligned with all your numbers. The concern I also have is affordable housing is pushing hard against these new developments to allow construction, to allow new affordable housing affordability into their building fit outs, meaning like 30% requirement to any new builds have to have low income housing, and those costs are still staying high and elevated, and that's just some of the concerns between hearing from you and Kazi and Justin. I think we got a good feel of general construction strategies and direction. I mean, listen, none of this is perfect. If it was, we'd all be doing it. You know,
It's funny, Joe. You brought up that 70-30 model. You are starting to see that a lot.
oh, they're mandating it.
20.
They're mandating it.
Large transactions, 300, 400, 500 plus units. You really see them heavy on the East Coast a lot.
Yeah.
But there's a strategy a lot of market rate developers are trying to utilize where, you can go in, let's say, do 20% affordable and you can get 4% tax credits just to help to, reduce the amount of private equity they need to raise. But the issue they run into, but the issue in general is just finding a tax credit investor and a lender who's comfortable with that mix of affordable and market rate. It has to be created in a condo structure, but that is happening a lot out there.
Yeah.
The East Coast.
I just see a very chameleon movement in the new construction space over the next couple of years. We're rolling out a new product on new construction where we're going to be extremely competitive with the bank numbers because our leverage is going to be higher, our cost is going to be near equivalent, our speed and expedition of the file is going to be different and better. Where you can get bogged down with a bank 3-4 months later and not know if you're going to get funded, you're going to know right away with us in 3 to 4 weeks because just the whole expedition is going to work differently. So I want to thank everybody for their engagement this morning. I think this was a very good hour of education on ground up construction. I want to thank our sponsors. We wouldn't be here without them. Mr. Yerdal Perkins of Perkatech, my business partner and co-founder of this podcast, and really putting everything together. He's a social media architect. I'll put it that way. You should reach out to him, have a discussion about your social media presence. I want to thank Linda Pelagas from Realty 411, a national publication providing insight to real estate professionals, as well as national events throughout the country. I want to thank MB Capital, where I'm a referral partner, providing unsecured business lines of credit for real estate professionals nationwide. And then Lendmark Capital, where I'm a senior loan analyst, providing asset-based lending in the DSCR space, fixed to rent, fixed to flip, new construction, multifamily, mixed use, blanket loans, strategy and advisory nationwide. And we're here every Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and every Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll be back here tomorrow morning with another great subject. And another thing is all these discussions we're having, there's an article being posted on my LinkedIn, my Facebook, my Instagram, my Twitter. So if you're not following me on LinkedIn or connected with me or Facebook, please do so you can see the write-ups on these preliminary discussions that we have every weekend. And my quote this morning, I believe being different should not be feared, but accepted. Have a great Saturday morning. We'll be back tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. and I'll be ending the room in the next 30 seconds. Thank you.